Promise now.
Here's your new defensive line coach, your highly praised defensive line coach, one that's been called the best in the league by Dan Campbell and many others. Terrell Williams on the advancements of Aiden Hutchinson.
How much better can he be? Is there another year? Can he do it on his own, or does he need help on the other side or someone inside?
Well, I don't know who can do it on their own. I mean, I've coached some really good players, and those players, if they're honest, will admit that they need other people. And so Hutch has been. He's been unbelievable this offseason, and I think he's made huge strides from the time I arrived and to where we are now. And it's not me; it's him studying tape. It's him asking questions. He's everybody sees a big, tall 97 with long arms and Mr. Michigan and all this other stuff. But what you don't see is the time that this guy puts in, and he's constantly asking questions and studying tape and studying other players and working on his craft, and he is an extremely coachable player. Like, I love the guy because of what he's about. Like, he's about getting better. He's not about the glamour and glitz. He's just a grinder, and we need a lot more guys that have that mentality.
It seems like going.
And that's what we've been saying. I mean, this guy did need some help. It was embarrassing what he was lined up with at the end of the year last year. Once Aleem McNeil went down, there was no other threat to get to the passer on that defensive line. And now you brought in guys that are going to insulate him. You brought in guys that are going to help him, that are going to take some attention away from him, so he's not getting double teamed and chipped by a tight end or a running back every single pass snap. I love to hear what we already knew from a guy new to the organization, a guy that gets his first look at Hutch in this training camp, is why, Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes fell in love with him, why they drafted him, because that's who he is. He is a grinder. He is that guy. He is going to go out there, he's going to put his nose down, and he's going to get to work. And that fits the narrative of Dan Campbell guys, of Brad Holmes guys. And when your best player on your defense is doing that, it exudes to the rest of the defense. When James Houston and Marcus Davenport and these guys see Aiden Hutchinson, the number 2 overall pick, the guy who is top 5 rated defensive end, if you talk to some people in the NFL, go out there and play like that at every facet, every snap, every practice, it's going to make them go harder too. It's the same effect with Amon-Ra St. Brown. When you got a first-team All-Pro out there catching 202 balls after every single practice, it makes the other guys want to work that much harder.
Yeah, for me, the thing that caught my attention was the thing you said in the very beginning. It's the thing that a lot of us kind of been preaching here for Aiden Hutchinson is the help. The help. He said even the best would have to admit to you that it wasn't just them alone. There wouldn't be a Valeni without a Foster beforehand. There wouldn't be. They all go together. They all go hand in hand, right? Spaghetti, meatball, tuna, and fish. Whatever analogy you like to use. But I think you finally have that this year. And then you have a guy that's also dealt with unlocking like these variables too. I think Hutch is pairing, and I'm going to give a shout out to Nick on this one because he brought it up when he was on last Friday. DJ Reader was the guy that played alongside a J.J. Watt, right? And as Williams said there, you hear the greats tell you it wasn't just me alone. This is a guy that's already worked alongside a great in DJ Reader that they brought in, and now you have an excellent offensive or defensive line coach to help aid that too. I think we might see the Hutch unlocked.
Speaking of Hutch unlocked, that's where I want to go with this. One of the things he said at the beginning is that he's been unbelievable. Next statement, and he's made huge strides already. For a guy that is already at Hutch's caliber to be making huge strides already with this new defensive line coach, we're gonna see Hutch unlocked. This is his 3rd season. I expect a massive leap, and for him to become from being a good player to an absolute superstar in this league, that's where I think his trajectory is headed.
And another thing before we go to the next video is we talked about getting him help on the defensive line, also getting him help in the defensive backfield. Getting him guys that aren't going to get burnt by their wide receiver off the line as soon as the ball is snapped. Getting him guys that aren't going to give up the most yards in defensive coverage in the NFL. Cam Sutton. Giving him guys that will give him that extra half second to turn 7 of those 100+ pressures he had into sacks, and that's a big help as well.
And the next clip, I mean, it's kind of just him reiterating the same things, and this one goes along with just like the versatile pieces we have on this defensive line too. Because now you have James Houston, who's a speedster off the line. You have Hutch to give it all. You have Davenport, who's just like a muscle-bound freak when healthy, obviously. Lee McNeil, we expect to rush the passer. Then my favorite, one of my up-and-coming favorites, I assume he's going to be one of my favorites, Mekhi Wingo.
With Wingo and Onwuzurike a little bit on the edge, Dan said that's to make it so you have to rush fewer in some situations. What is the value of having, I guess, the flexibility where you can have some of those 3-men heavy fronts to give you some schematic flexibility?
Sometimes rushing a passer is pairing up the certain guys with certain players, and if you got a guy that's a speed guy and he runs, up the field, then you need a guy opposite him that can crush the pocket so we don't create big seams in there. So I've always liked to put bigger guys on the edges sometimes and put some of the smaller guys inside. So, it'll be fun because I do think that we have some flexibility with our personnel and what they're able to do now.
And you look at his track record of guys that he's done this with, like Danico Autry, like Jeffrey Simmons, like dudes that are not on paper the sack artist or the best edge rusher, but like he said, matchups make the man. You put them in advantageous matchups to where they can use the things that they do best to get to the quarterback. We're gonna see Hutch on the inside making some moves. We're gonna see a guy like Levi or even Wingo on the outside using that bull rush to get a tackle off of his back foot. You put these guys in the best situations for them, and you can't keep feeding this offensive line on the opposing team the same look over and over and over, because they'll just fall into that same scheme, same blocking pattern, and they'll get in a rhythm. You switch things up, you do some stunts, you move some things around, and the big uglies on the offensive line, they get startled. They're not ready for it, and that's how you get some of those cheap sacks.
And maybe that's a genius in this guy, right? Like just chefing up what's the defensive line to put out there and what's down, like who's working what side. Watching the offensive tape to see what type of guys these offensive linemen struggle against and where you're going to match them up. Because don't forget, Aiden Hutchinson, another guy you play inside as well. He did his rookie year.
Yeah.
I think he did that times in Michigan. Like it just keeps everything fresh. And not just like the looks itself, but even the players mismatching it too. And I think, again, that's going to be some of the genius that we see from Terrell Williams, at least that I hope to see. And this part is just for selfish reasons. I want to see some hype about Mekhi Wingo. Go ahead.
You mentioned it earlier with J.J. Watt. Like, J.J. Watt played every single position on the offensive line. Yeah. He would play in the inside. He would play on the outside. He would play on the strong side. He would play on the weak side. You can move him around. So you find I can't remember what movie it's from, but that's my bitch. Like, that's what I want Hutch to do, to hunt out the weakest link of that offensive line and fucking attack him. Like, that's my bitch. I'm going to be on your ass all fucking day, 77, and get after that guy. Put him in the best situation for him to kill the quarterback every single snap.
And again, this next one, selfish reasons. Mekhi Wingo telling you he's coming.
Broderick stands out there. Wingo stands out in a different way, right? He's not shied away from it. He's been a small defensive tackle for his entire life. I'm just wondering, what players have you coached that have maybe had that size, that skill set, and is there a trick to finding out the best fit for that player within your scheme?
Yeah, I don't want to really compare him, make comparisons, because we start thinking, well, this player should be like that player. The one thing I'll say is that he's an explosive player that understands what his limits are, and he also understands what he can use to his advantages. And so he's an explosive guy that's extremely quick hands. He can rush the passer, and I believe he'll be a good run defender for us. So I'm excited. I mean, where we got him and what he's been able to do so far, I'm super excited about that player.
Listen, I've had to hold myself back. At least I try to at times, because like some of this with this franchise specifically, it feels just too good to be true. Mm-hmm. Like even this past draft.
Holy shit, they did it again.
Yeah, like finding Mekhi Wingo and Mahogany at the back end of the draft, too good to be true. Terrell Arnold falling all the way to 23, and then our GM making the move to go get him and only giving up the third round, too good to be true. I try to reserve like the way I feel. Because it feels too good. It feels like a fucking dream. But Kyle Wingo, I think, is going to be an absolute dog. And to hear a guy, again, that's been revered as the best defensive line coach in the league, to say, yeah, I'm excited about that player. As well as some of the attributes he's given you, but you guys already knew that. We've already told you that, right? He had the second fastest 10-yard split in this year's draft class. It's comparable to those of Kalaji Kancey. And this is the excitement where I try to hold it back. But these are the comps when you look at defensive tackles that are off the line like that. Aaron Donald. I'm not telling you he's going to be these guys, but he's going to give you something. He's going to give you something, and he's going to match them against, again, like we said, pair him along against the offensive line where he's going to fit best. And, by the way, he happens to have DJ Reader on that same defensive line, Aiden Hutchinson on the defensive line, and Lee McNeil on the defensive line, too. This is a guy they're going to find in spots, and I have a pretty good feeling he's going to eat.
Yeah, it's the versatility that they love, that they talk about, that they preach. And look at all of the guys littered around this defensive line that have that versatility, whether it be John Kaminsky, whether it be Josh Pascal, whether it be Betts, whether it be Wingo. Like, those are a lot of guys that you could put in a lot of different spots that can fill a hole if you're trying to move your centerpiece, your Aiden Hutchinson to this side. You got, okay, we can put Kaminsky at the other end. Okay, we can put this guy over there because he can do anything. You can put him anywhere, and he's gonna play his role and do his job. And that's why they're so adamant in getting guys with that kind of versatility, so you can have fun, so you can get freaky, so you can do weird stuff to put your best players in great positions. You got a guy filling in that other position. Like, okay, I trust him. He's done it before.
Amen.
Dan Campbell does not bullshit, fellas, and he told you that this is the best defensive line coach in the NFL. You have so much talent on that D-line that maybe has yet to be unlocked. You think about the 2 second-rounders in Levi and Pascal. Can they hit a different level? You talked about Wingo already, 6th-rounder that dropped to you. You talk about another late-round pick in James Houston. Can he unlock all of these players to, at the beginning of this segment, like we said, give Hutch the help? Because all great pass rushers need help. We didn't even mention DJ Reader and Aleem. Can these other guys take a next step with the best defensive line coach in the league? I think they can, and it's going to be scary for other teams opposing offensive lines.
I agree.
It's going to be very scary. We need the backups, we need the reserves.